pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. It's 8:30, Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. You're at the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting at the Mitchell County Courthouse. In front of us, we have an agenda. Everybody look at that. Do you have any motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Mark has made a motion.
I'll second.
Todd has seconded.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Approve the minutes of the April 13th meeting. And hopefully you had a chance to read through that. If there's any additions or corrections. Everything looked okay to me, so
I'll move to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Mike has made a motion to approve Tuesday, April 13th, 2021 meeting minutes.
Second.
And Jim has seconded.
Any discussion? Roll call. Mike.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Steve.
Aye. So, that has been approved. We will move on to County Attorney General discussion. Mark, are you out there?
Yes, I am.
I will let you have the floor.
Two things. Let me see. The first is that meeting that we had last Tuesday night. Just the history on this, if you're not all familiar with it, the previous board had approved the project to go through and we're going to fund it. But the law is pretty clear that a board of supervisors can't find a future board of supervisors. So I'm just saying, if you guys want to go through with it, if you don't want to go through with it, you know, that's up to you. But at some point in time, I don't know if Adam's there today. When he's there, you guys should probably put it on the agenda for discussion, just to see if you're going to approve it or not approve it. And what that basically means is, if you're going to provide the money to them to go forward. So that's it on that, unless anyone has any questions.
The ground is not in conservation's hands, and so does that mean it's in our hands, and then we just have to also give the head nod that we're going to let them do that on the property that I guess we control?
Yeah. Really what the code says is conservation can hold land, but it has to be in the county's name. So I'm not going to sit here and say that every piece of land that ever got conveyed to Mitchell County, because I think there were probably some deeds that snuck through that may have said Mitchell County Conservation. But even if they don't do that, land is legally in the county's name. It's not in conservation's name, because the code says conservation owns land through the county. So basically what approving the project would be is, yes, we'll put the money up so you guys can do the project.
Okay. And kind of where I was going with that is that they've managed it or they've taken care of it for about 20 years, and it wasn't actually conservation ground, so that's kind of where I was going with that. So
I think, Mark, what you're saying is no matter what, all the ground, though, that county conservation has, it's still county ground. That's what you're trying to tell us, right, Mark?
That is correct. Legally it is. And like I said, there might have been some deeds that snuck through or at some points in time that said Mitchell County Conservation. even if those deeds went through that way, it's really Mitchell County property, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So what we need to do is have Adam come in and have a discussion and have a vote then at another time.
Yes.
Okay?
The next thing is, and of course, remember, I'm reporting everything secondhand. I can only report what was told to me. Apparently, Tuesday after we left the meeting, Conservation continued its meeting. Jim Oberfell asked if there was any comments from the public, and no one said anything. And once the meeting was over, Mr. Goodell approached members and he demanded that certain things be done. He's coming up to them in gas stations and demanding that things be done. And some of the members of that board wanted a letter written to him, just basically saying, okay, here's what you can do. It's our meeting. We can allow you to speak. You don't have to. If you want to talk to us at the meeting, not other places. I just didn't know whether your board wanted me to send that letter on their behalf too, or on your behalf, or just you want to be left out of it.
I would have no problem with putting us, including us in on that letter, but that's my opinion.
I guess, Mark, you're the county's attorney. I will go with your decision on that.
Well, he's got the right to come to his meetings. He doesn't have a right to talk at the meetings. He's got the right to come up to you in public and talk to you. But if you say to him, leave me alone, I don't want to talk about it, and he just persists and persists, he does not have the right to do that. So it's totally up to the board. If you want it sent on your behalf, I will. If you don't, I won't. But I'm going to send it on behalf of Conservation because they requested that I do it.
On that letter, will that say this is a done deal? We're no longer going to address this?
Yeah, it would say, the issue with Brian driving the truck, you're requesting that certain employees be written up. Both boards have considered it, and the matter's done, and they're not going to take any further action on it.
So if it does, I would be okay with putting this on there too. Just if he does come up to somebody in public, say you've gotten a letter from the county attorney, it's done, we're moving forward. And again, that's just my feelings.
Yeah, and he's got the right to come up and talk to you if you're in public. But once you tell him it's a done deal and he won't leave you alone, that's where it crosses the line.
Yeah, I think you should probably have us, the board of supervisors, on that too. We have resolved it.
Can we get a motion to that effect then?
I would
move that
I would move to make that motion.
Todd has made a motion.
Second.
Jim has made a second.
Any discussion? Roll call. Jim?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just an update on Kephart. His attorney called and said that on Thursday I wanted a continuance. I said, well, I'll grant a I'll agree to a continuance only under one condition, that you're telling me that you're going to work with Mr. Kephart and get a third party involved. I don't care who it is, to resolve this issue. And he said, yeah, I'm working on it. It's a slow process. But yes, if you'll give me that continuance, I will guarantee you that at least I'm going to work on it. Whether I can get something done, I don't know. So I agreed to that because I figured him paying a fine wasn't gonna clean it up at all, but at least maybe him cleaning it up is better than nothing. Now, whether we see any progress or not, I don't know, but that's where we are.
Okay. I had a person that lives close by there discussed the other day that someone was walking around and taking pictures of the Kephart property and was taking different views of the Kephart property from other people's property. And, or I should rephrase that, from right-of-way property they were taking. Anyways, this person confronted the picture taker, and it was Kephart's attorney. So apparently they're expecting us possibly to be foolish enough to clean it up again. They were taking pictures to make sure that they had pictures of what was there. So that's just for your information.
Okay. So that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. With
Yep.
nothing left there for county attorney, we will move to sheriff's update.
Mark touched on some of the things I was gonna talk about. I did talk to his, Mr. Kephart's attorney yesterday too, and Jim helped me with some road setback stuff, so. Other than Kephart's situation that Mark just covered, I don't have anything for you folks today, unless you have something for me.
Anybody have anything for the sheriff? Hearing none, thank you, Sheriff.
Okay.
We'll move down to county engineer update.
Morning. I gave you guys the updated maps from last week, so you should have all that information now for your files if you guys want to look at it. So there's that. We're getting ready for sending some paint quotes out. What we've been hearing, I think I might maybe mentioned this a few weeks ago, is that paint's expensive this time of year. Well, because of the freezing episode in Texas earlier this spring, the components of paint have gotten really expensive, almost to 3 times what it used to be last year. So I don't know what the prices are doing right now, but in our paint quote, we're gonna send it out for our roadway striping, and we're putting a disclaimer in there that depending on how the prices come in, we may adjust our length of paint depending on what the budget sees it can take. So we'll get that sent out. We're gonna try to get out in the next week, or by next week for sure, the rock runs information. We'll get that out. We're gonna look at, I know I've talked to a few of you, a couple of you guys on the rock a little bit. The southeast corner of the county still has, softer soils, seems to be rougher roads. We're gonna run that 1.125" gradation out there. I think we're gonna switch everything back to where the roads seem to be holding up better. We're gonna go back to our 1-inch aggregate. I know we've got some gradations we looked at that other counties are using, and they're really similar to what we're already using. The gradations are within 5% on certain sieves. I don't know that we really need to change much, because I don't think they've maxed out the sieves anyway, but we'll look at it. I talked to Cerro Gordo County, because Mark had dropped off a gradation for me to look at there. Their gradation was 1.5 inches top size, but when I talked to the county engineer there, he said they used that a couple of years ago when the frost boils were really bad, but they've since went down to a 1-inch aggregate there. He was gonna send me that gradation on what they were using. He hasn't done that. I also asked him what their abrasion was, their durability number was, and he didn't have that information from that quarry. So their gradation is really similar. What they're using is they're using a really similar gradation to what we've used on our 33 and above abrasion. So they're making it a little bit cleaner on the 33, because we know the 33 abrasion breaks down a little bit faster than the harder stuff. So I think what we're going to do is maybe even knock out the intermediate sieves altogether. Just look at what's passing the 1-inch, the number 4, and the fines, because they're actually running dirtier 200 than we are now in our gradation. So we're not too far off of anybody else's gradation. Just so you guys have an update of that, I think I'm going to try to switch that back over and see what we can get put down. That 1.125" stuff, we've had some trouble with the public calling on getting tires popped, and right now it's so dang dry out there. We'll use the 1.125" in the spring when things tend to be soft and we got frost boils. Well, that's a good material to punch in there, but once we start getting harder roads, I think we're going to get back to a smaller top size, so we're not so rough on some tires and whatnot, so. Any comments on that?
Could you send me the, is there about 1.5 inches and then the inch that they're using when they get that to you?
Yeah, when I get that. And so what I also sent out to you then, or what I gave you this morning was a spreadsheet, and it's just kind of a breakdown of, you know, our budget versus width of road versus tons per mile versus thickness, and then how long it takes to go back and cycle through. I know it looks maybe kind of confusing, but, you know, our typical roadway widths, they can be from anywhere from 22 foot edge to edge to 34 feet, depending on what road we're on. And so what you see in the first part is how many tons per mile at a 1/2 inch of cover for that whole width. And then it goes to 1 inch, 2 inch, and beyond that. And then what it tells you in the next set of numbers is how much it costs per mile for that thickness, for that width. And then if we have a budget of X amount of dollars, how much it costs us, let's see here, how many miles we can do in a year based on that budget number. And on the back side, it'll show you the percent of our roadway miles that we can do in a year based on the thickness we're going to put down. And then finally, how many years it cycles back around based on our budget, how many years it takes to get back to those roads to re-rock them again. So usually what they tell you is you want 3 times the top size aggregate of your rock to be put down to make a good compactable mix of rock on the road. Well, if we got a top size of 1 inch, that means we need to put down 3 inches of rock per year. If we put 3 inches of rock down per year, it takes us, depending on the width of the road, anywhere from 16 to 18 years to cycle back through all of our roads. We don't have that kind of time, we don't have that kind of money. So I'm just giving you this as something that says, and we can only do 6.2% per year. So it's just kind of a more an information thing. If we get asked questions that say, look, here's where the budget numbers are, here's what it takes to do this. You know, we're putting down, the maximum we put down is 500 tons per mile, and that's only given us, I don't know if I have that on, do I have that on here? So, when we put down 500 tons a mile, I mean, even at a 24-foot wide road, to get a 1/2 inch is 382 tons. So we're not even getting a 1/2 inch of rock on our roads as we sit here. We're not even meeting our maximum top size aggregate gradation, or aggregate in that, to blend back in. So we're putting thin layers of rock, and other counties are doing the same thing. I don't think there's many that are putting more on their roads because the budgets can't take it. We're putting material on there to work with what's there, but it's just, if you want a good solid road, we gotta put more down, and we just can't do that. It's just more of an information for you guys, and I know Jim, you understand that already, but, and Mark does too, but it's just for the rest of you guys to look at and say, look, you know, this is based on a $900,000 a year budget for our rock run, and so it just tells you what we can and can't do, or can only do with the funds we have. It's more information. We're still gonna be putting down 500 tons a mile on our highly traveled roads unless, you know, and we do a lot of spot rocking too, we try to keep up with that, but it's just more for information to look at and ponder on when, so.
When you say that, just so everybody's clear though, we don't put 500 tons a mile on a lot of roads.
No, there's
Usually
maybe a hand, you know, usually we're running,
Wide road.
yeah, wide roads get a little bit more, and again, that spreads that out, or if it's a highly traveled road when we see, you know, but, yeah,
I just
yeah.
want everybody to
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, there aren't very many miles that get done 500 ton a mile. So when you look at that, and you look at how wide the road is, it'll tell you how thick it's going, and you can't compact a 1 inch top size aggregate if you're only putting a 1/2 inch down. It does help, you know, blend back in and get some rock to work with to help with the deficiencies in the road, but also remember our road bases aren't that deep, so we're not gonna dig that deep when we cut. It's a problem everywhere, it's not here. I just want you guys to be aware of you know, where the roads are.
The roads are in pretty good shape this year.
Yeah, they're dry. I know there's some frost boil spots out there, but we're hitting them every day, so.
Spot rocking them, I see,
Yep.
so.
Yep, we got about, I don't know, the last 2 weeks we got $20,000 of rock out spotting, so.
Well, I see they're putting rock down for dust controls too.
Yeah, we're getting ready for that since it's getting dusty out.
We could sure use a good warm rain and a lot of thunder blowing to settle things out.
So that, the other item on the agenda is 10-hour days, unless you.
Before we get to that, Rich, I have a question. I just wondering what the crews, what what your schedule's like in order to prep that base for the building as far as the strip the sod and, also rocking it, and we talked about that.
How close you guys are, I mean, you let me know what you got, and we can, actually, as an update, our other excavator's in, they're getting a thumb put on it now, so I'm expecting that in the next week or so, I mean, that might be something we could use out there if we wanna strip it.
Well, Dave asked me yesterday, so that's why.
Did he get back to us? Or no,
Dave
I said,
Hartwell.
oh, how about the city guy? Did he,
I don't know.
we have variance?
Okay, I'm just following up on what David asked me, so I'm just asking you, is it something that maybe in first half of May we could?
Yeah, I think,
Something
you
like
just
that.
tell me what kind of schedule you want, we'll work
Okay.
with that,
All right,
we'll work with that.
Mike's deal, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think, because in June, I think is when they want to build, but
Okay.
we have to strip the sod off, and we thought maybe we just pile that somewhere, because we might have to use it to fill in around. And
Okay.
we've gotta have
Just let me know what
we
your
do.
plan is, and I can get with the foreman and the guys, and we'll schedule something, we'll have that little, you know, by then we should have that other excavator too, if we need to,
Okay.
that way we can keep digging other places.
Yeah,
You probably have to set a lath up where you want that pile, so that pile doesn't interfere with those guys that are going to be building it, or
Yeah.
with any sewer work.
we're kind of waiting on the city right now
You're
for,
still
yeah,
waiting
everything.
from
Yeah.
Jerry then?
Yeah. so-
For that variance to
Yeah.
be a little
We might
closer.
get that first, and
Okay.
then we know what we're doing for sure.
Yeah, just keep me informed, and we'll work it in.
Will you guys be able to haul some bill back in too for us, or?
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually, I mean, yeah.
and then we prep the rock. When they prep the rock for the base.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tell me what kind of rock you want and whatever else,
Well,
we can,
I just have some Class A.
Class A that compacts, yep. Okay, just let us know what kind of time, just
Sure.
keep us in the loop.
Sure. Yep. What they do.
So last week we talked about 10-hour days. I had a chance last Friday to talk to the union stewards, and I think we've come up with a plan that they can accept and I can accept at least this year to give it a try. We agreed on the split shifts, Monday through Thursday and Tuesday through Friday with half the crews. They've kind of worked out amongst themselves how they're gonna do that with certain shops. We both agreed that we would be acceptable to do 6:30 to 5. And we also agreed that we would do June through August. That gives us, and then the 5 8-hour days during the holiday week, that way everything is kind of fair with everybody else. I'm in agreement with that, I think it's something to try, see if we can make it work. It's up to you guys to see whether or not you guys wanna agree with it or not, I think it's something to give a shot, if we wanna go that route.
So you have a plan then for like the foreman?
Yeah, I think the mechanic, the foreman, you know, the foreman, he can probably figure out whether he works 9-hour days and then Friday gets guys set up to go for a few hours in the morning, and then we'll work with that a little bit. And then the mechanic, that can be either or. I mean, he doesn't need to be present every day if he doesn't need to be. If he wants to work 5 days, he can do that. We'll be flexible with those two positions just because they're the less, I won't want to say less critical, but they're different than hauling rock and blading roads, so we'll be flexible with those to try to get them to work as long as they're getting their 40.
Do you have two shops that only have 2 employees?
I know Riceville has just 2 employees and they're 2 blade routes, so we were gonna talk about swapping those guys out on Mondays and Fridays, and I'm trying to remember if Stacyville has 2 or 3. I don't recall.
I think
They might just have 2 also.
Just Phil and Dusty,
Yeah. And they could be, that shop might be, the way the guys had figured it, the union stewards had discussed how they were gonna split shops up to make it work, that if one was blade and the other one's hauling rock for maybe the Riceville shop or whatever, so we'll get that figured out. But I think what they had proposed was pretty decent, and as long as they can make it work with splitting, we'll have blade routes covered Monday through Friday.
Something we can maybe tweak if we see
Yep.
an issue in a month. or
Most
something.
definitely, this is kind of to me, it's a work in progress. Nothing, like I said, no plan is perfect, but we'll find out whether it's working or not working.
I've had some of your guys talk to me, some,
I'm sure.
some are in favor of it, the 10 hours, and some says it doesn't matter to them one way or another. So
Yeah.
they'll do whatever. So I feel, I don't know, kind of what, it's your boss, or your guys, you know, if you got a plan that'll work. I don't know.
I'm willing to try it. If it don't work,
A month if it doesn't work.
then we revisit the issue, I guess. I guess what I'll tell them is we'll go back and if you guys wanna agree to it, that if it's not working in a month, we switch it back. Or we find another alternative. I don't know that we'll have problems, but you just never know.
What's the consensus of the board? That sound like a amicable deal?
I'm okay with it, I don't think we need to go to one question, yeah.
Well, I'm just, if we're happy with it, I don't know if we have to have a motion.
It's on the paper.
Okay,
You guys do, according to the union contract, have to
I'll
agree
move
to
to
it.
approve the 10-hour days as stipulated by the county engineer.
Jim has made a motion,
I'll second.
Todd has seconded.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Todd,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Mike,
All right,
Mark.
Nay.
So, that has passed for now anyways. And we'll have a month to try it out.
Yep.
If there's issues though,
We'll revisit it.
I'll have the same answer as Mark had. So.
That's all I've
moving
got for you.
on. No questions for Rich? Further? Thank you, Rich. Juvenile detention services, and I'm going to suspect that
Yep, that's me.
Megan,
Yes.
that you would like to have the floor?
Sure.
Because
So, so just a reminder that the juvenile budget is something that our office does oversee. So we received a bill from Central Iowa Detention for an individual who was at North Iowa Detention Center, but was ordered by the judge to go to Central Iowa for an evaluation, because Central Iowa Detention Center is the only facility, from what we've been told, in the state that does these evaluations. So, so we got this bill. We've never received a bill before like this, and so it's in the amount of $6,000 for a 30-day evaluation. So as we were looking at it, it says on specifically on the bill, it says Mitchell non-contract detention. And so we were like, well, what does that mean? So there was a individual from the Central Detention Center listed on the bill, so we called them and just said, well, what does this contract mean? And so, so we went on to explain that if, for detention centers, you have to have memberships. And as you know, we're part of the 2080 with the North Iowa Detention Center. And so, but we've been told from both Juvenile Court Services, North Iowa Detention, and Central Iowa Detention that you can have multiple memberships at detention centers. And so, so we looked it up, and it says that there's no membership fees or anything like that. But I think it was around 10 years ago or so, Central Iowa Detention Center came here to speak to you guys about becoming a member. But at that time, there were some fees associated with it, and the board had just decided not to go forward with that. Well, again, as we were digging more into this, we had asked some questions about what is your rate if you're a member? What is the difference between this $200 a day rate versus if we're a member? And they said $60 a day is the rate if you're a member. So I mean, obviously, huge, cost savings. And so, but so then we reached out to, again, like I said, the JCS, and they had said that you as a board, you can certainly obviously designate, juveniles to go to the detention center, which that's something that you do and we do, and we're part of that. So you can let the Juvenile Court Services know that that's where we want our juveniles to go. However, we also, if it's something that you guys choose to pursue, this membership, then we would also have a membership for Central Iowa Detention in case this happens again. And again, we had no idea that this evaluation was ordered, and, so what, Central Detention, this Tony Reed, has offered to come and speak to you guys, and see if it's something of interest to wanna be a member. Again, this bill is $6,000, our budget for the year for juvenile services is $20,000. So if we were to have, even, and this is just for an evaluation, if we were to have, detention services, as you know, are very expensive, so if we were to have even, 2 or 3 more of these this year, we're obviously, that's outside of detention. So it's very costly. And we did have some questions about that as far as $6,000 for an evaluation, and where then does this evaluation go, or what happens to it, which again is ordered by the judge, but how does that then affect juvenile detention? So the juvenile went back to juvenile detention after this evaluation and was there for like 2 more weeks. And I'm like, so do you guys see a copy of that evaluation to know where, like, for discharge, And they said, no, we don't see a copy of that evaluation. So that's my other thing that we've been trying to figure out. So who does see this? I'm sure that it goes back to the courts to know for, how to proceed with the case, but it's a very costly, and again, we've never received a bill like this before, so we just thought it was worth our time and energy to dig into a little bit and find out. So again, I just want to offer that to you, if that's something of interest, that you guys want somebody from the Central Detention, as Tony, to come and speak. And if so, we can coordinate that with Tony, and we will be a part of it too, because we actually followed up with him with some additional questions just about, because we had heard that, yes, they have a cheap rate of $60, because, I don't know if you know or not, but like North Iowa Juvenile Detention, their daily rate is $125. So we're like, wow, how can they do it for so much less? And we've been told though from other counties that they do, $60 is their base rate, but they do add on sometimes, like if a child has more behaviors or different things, there are some extra fees associated with the bill, and it's not just a straight $60 a day. So again, we have some more questions for him that we want clarification for, that he hasn't responded to us. So if you're open to having him come and speak, then that will be a time for sure we'll want to address those questions with him too before we move into a membership. But again, it's not something that you have to do, just something I wanted to throw out to give you guys an option to see if it's worth looking into.
I have just a question. If we are a member, that usually means that then one of the supervisors would have to attend the meetings from there forward. So that would be a county cost, your time and the mileage. And
yes.
So there would be a cost associated with you if you add another board on. If you go on the detention center, you would be on the board and someone would have to go to that meeting and stuff.
Yes, you're right.
So.
Yeah.
So what I had a meeting with the Untitled Detention Center. You don't have to read this right now.
Sure.
This is some information.
Yeah.
It has to do with their fees and stuff.
Okay.
And what you're talking about is on that also. So are you advocating that we switch from North Iowa
No.
Detention to Eldora, or, okay?
No, absolutely not. I think that we are part of North Iowa Juvenile Detention. That's what we should stay at. And we can designate that with our, like I said, the JCS, the Juvenile Court Services. And we can say North Iowa Juvenile Detention is where we want our juveniles to go. But again, if there was, for some reason, no capacity there, what have you, then we would have a membership somewhere else.
So what they want to do is they want to start this plan themselves. They want to provide this service also. They don't have it in force right at this time.
Good.
But it's something that they want to do.
Sure.
And when we started this meeting, as soon as they knew I was on the Zoom, it instantly came up to that the $6,000 bill, Mitchell County, and the director said you would never see that kind of a bill from us for this service.
Sure.
On that, it says that Eldora charges what they call an a la carte rate, meaning if, as is listed there, if the individual is particularly naughty, it's more expensive. And so that $60 is not necessarily going to be $60.
Right. Yeah, we've been told that too.
They're proposing it's $125 for the first 30 days, but then currently after the first 30 days, it's $50 a day. they're proposing to go to $75 a day to pay for some of these additional services. They want to start another program also.
Sure,
So they're in the works of trying to make something happen.
Okay,
I
that's
think would
great
be
to
good
hear.
for us.
yes, absolutely. And if that's the case, then, yeah, we don't need to, I mean, it might not be
And
something that you guys
I'm
want to
open
pursue.
to listening to somebody else, I don't mean that, they
Sure.
don't have it in place yet, but I'm just
Right.
saying it's something they wanna do.
Yeah, yeah, because they, I mean, yeah, they don't have it in place, I'm sure they have to, do they talk about having to get a psychiatrist, psychologist contract with
No.
somebody to do the evaluation?
No.
So, I'm happy to hear that, and, yeah, so that's totally up to you, if you, I mean, that's why I wanted to come here today, to just see if you're open to having this person come, but if that's something that they're going to do, hopefully, you know, in the near future, I mean, they obviously didn't give you a time frame.
No, and I guess I just had one in my head, do I contact them and see maybe what they're looking at for a time frame?
I think maybe that would be
I mean,
a good idea.
Yeah, if it's gonna be 2 years, well, then maybe we need to look at something, but if it's gonna be 2 months, well, then,
Right, we
So-
can definitely deal with that,
And then,
for sure.
another thing you have to look at is, we do have a $6,000 bill from one child, but how often does this happen?
Yeah, again, it's never happened for us, but that doesn't mean, I mean, yeah, it's just so hard to say, I mean,
You know,
some of these services like juvenile
We-
detention, you just never, I mean, we have a budget, sometimes we go over that, you just never know, it just depends on
If the judge liked
if
the
it's
report.
utilized. Right,
If the judge liked the report, he might start ordering it, or she might start ordering it more often.
yeah, that's totally out of our
Out of your hands.
hands.
so what is our discussion on this? Would we like to table this for now and let Jim get more information?
I think
I think so. Yeah.
Sounds like consensus of the board is to research further information and go from there. Does that sound amicable for you, Megan?
Absolutely, yep, I think it's, if they're willing to do it, it's easier to just work with one detention center.
Yeah.
Um,
Alright. Can you email me your contact information
Sure.
sometime? I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And can I keep this?
Yes, you can, that's a
Okay,
copy.
perfect. Wonderful.
Okay, is there any more discussion on this then? If not, we'll move on.
Okay, just so you know, we will be submitting this then through claims, so,
Yep.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to number 7. Resolution approving the bond purchase agreement for the sale of taxable general obligation refund bond, Series 2021A. So, I guess, would Scott like to step up here and say something?
Sure, yeah, Nate Summers here.
Or Nate?
Yep, Nate, no worries. It looks like, you got a copy of the numbers there in front of you. Do you all have a copy of that?
Yes.
Okay, if so, I'll just recycle those and save some paper. Are you all okay if I take this off while I'm speaking? Okay. Keep my distance over here. So, just to kind of put a bow on the refinancing, looking at, item 7 is refunding of the taxable, the taxable refunding, sorry, of the 2014A general obligation bonds of the county. Interest rates, since we kind of first started talking about this, went up a little bit, and for about a week, it looked like we might have to kind of hit pause, because it looked like rates were kind of racing up, and or actually over the course of the last couple of weeks, rates kind of came back down again, so looks like we kind of caught some tailwinds, and we're able to get something good done here for the county. Just wanted to make a nod to Rachel as well. Did a great job on the rating call with Standard & Poor's. The county's rating was affirmed at A+ by Standard & Poor's, so that was a big part of the savings as well. If you look at page 2 of the numbers in front of you, there's a summary of refunding results on the 2021A series that's refunding of the 2014A prior bonds. We're able to save net present value savings of $342,000 at 6% as a percentage of the savings of the refunded bonds. When you add in the current refunding of Series 2015B, so this is the tax exempt 2021B series that is item 8 on the agenda. Savings on that one was about 41, just shy of $42,000. So total savings was about $384,000 between the two. Pages 3 and 4 break down the annual cash flow savings. So this is kind of how the savings would actually impact the county's debt service levy. On the Series A bonds, you can see annual savings are about $35,000 for the remaining life of the bonds each year. And then if you flip to page 4, shows Series 2021B, annual savings of about $10,000 to $15,000 each year on the debt service levy through 2024. Are there any questions on the numbers? Just to kind of talk about the remaining timeline, as long as everything's approved today, tomorrow the paying agent will actually post the notice of call to the bondholders. And then May 4, at the county's meeting, there'll be another set of proceedings from Dorsey and Whitney to authorize issuance on the bonds, and then we'll close May 27th. And the 2015B bonds will be called June 1st on the call date, and that escrow will be funded for the 2014A bonds.
So those are the final numbers?
These are final, yeah.
Yep.
All fixed rates.
Yep.
Yep.
I guess we need to approve, make motions to approve the resolution approving the bond purchase agreement for the sale of taxable general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2021A. Do we have any motions to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Mark has made a motion.
I will second that.
Mike has seconded. Rachel?
Any discussion? Roll call, Mark,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Todd.
Aye.
So, that has been approved. We will slide down to number 8.
This is just.
Okay. Yep. I don't need to date them.
No, they're not stuff.
Thank you for coming.
I'll read it one more.
Okay. We will slide down to number 8. And basically, you've already given the information for that one. So, I guess, resolution for approving a bond purchase agreement for the sale of general obligation refund bonds, Series 2021B. Do we have any motions to that effect?
I'll move to approve that.
Mike has made a motion.
I'll second that.
Mark has seconded. Rachel?
Any discussion? Roll call, Mike,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve.
Aye. So we've approved that. So we are moving forward.
Yep, we'll move along the timeline and get everything queued up. We'll work with Rachel to move paperwork and documentation. Otherwise, thank you to the county for electing to work with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. There. Is there anything else to discuss on this then, Rachel? Move on.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Discussion and action on for year 21-22 health benefit contributions. Rachel going to give a little more on that, or is something?
The health benefit, that is where we need help, we're gonna contribute, like we had that conference call. I know the big discussion was at 1,600 and 3,200.
Yeah, I think they recommended going down to 1,000 from the 1,600, correct? To help fund and to even up the two plans, so they're.
I had a sheet of questions, and I guess I'm not in favor as far as decreasing any of the employees' benefits in regards to doing that. This was proposed about 3 years ago for these plans to be as they are. And the people that have the health savings accounts, they're not entitled to the flexible benefit program. And also, they're looking at a higher deductible, a $2,800 deductible, where you could have the majority of what you built up dwindled in 1 or 2 years if you have some health issues going on. I'm talking about just the single plan. Of the family plan, that's the deductible's more on that. But, so I'm not in favor of reducing employees' benefits. I also have a question in regards to what they're proposing for the premium. Now, is that what they're? This is what I need to be clear on. Is that what they are proposing that the employee pay, or is that what they're proposing that would be the county's contributions to build this fund? Because that's very important to know what they're talking about.
Which one are you talking about?
For either the 11E or the 12C, at the bottom of what they're proposing, for the 11E, the county pays for the single, so that's doesn't make any difference. But the family portion of it, we're looking at $300 a month for the 11E and just under $200 a month increase, even over the normal insurance increase. So are we expecting our employees to take that?
I believe that's what they're
And I'm not for that, if that's the
suggesting.
case. I'm not gonna hammer my employees for $300 a month increase just to build this fund for the buy down. I'm not for that. That's.
Shannon, did you have something you wanted to add?
Didn't come to the previous meeting, but I did make a little spreadsheet thing for you guys, since I was part of the original. I usually try to help out on the insurance, because I've always been the employee that does all that stuff, so. Just so you know, 3 years ago when we did it, what the thought process was. Because Rachel and Lindsay and I were talking about it last week. The first column is a regular insurance, which is eligible for the flex spending FSA. Deductibles $5,000 was before. County sells funds at down to $500. So when you look at it, the county pays a premium for single plans. The county also pays $125 a month to employees. A lot of them do accident insurance, or they put it in their flex spending. So total cost per year is $1,500. When you go down, if an employee uses the max per year, the employee's total out-of-pocket expense is $500. Plus, they got that $1,500 for the flex spending. That is not assumed to be spent. You go farther down, since this just happened with my knee surgeries, county gave me $5,500 self-funding. So that went and covered my out-of-pocket expense. So when I'm done, I actually end up paying $500. Plus, I got $1,500 for my flex spending. So that's, all that money comes out of the county pocket. We have 54 people that are on the regular insurance. So that possibly, with the $5,500 per employee, that is a check we have it written for up to almost $300,000. That's our liability for the county for regular insurance, because we give the $1,500. If you go to the high deductible on the right-hand side, deductible's $3,000. County pays the premium. County pays $125 to the employees a month, total per year. Plus we give the $133 a month to the HSA account. So the total for that is $1,600. If the employee uses the maximum benefits for the year, it's $3,000. Out-of-pocket expense. The reason we chose $1,600 plus the $1,500 was the premiums, their deductible would be covered. They're assuming, you are assuming that that employee on the HSA is going to use the $1,600 you gave them for the year and the $1,500, so you cover your deductible. Where the other employee on the regular insurance is walking away with $2,000 or with or with $1,500 minus $500, so $1,000 they walk away with, essentially. If they go total out-of-pocket expenses, they still net $1,000, where your HSA employees are expected to spend the HSA money and the flex spending money. At the end, there's no co-insurance to buy down. We have 27 employees that do the HSA. That's $43,200 capitated. Money's the county spent is done. We walk away, that employee, you would pay no more in insurance when you're done with the HSA employees. That's all it costs us, period. We did it for the HSA plan to encourage more conscious usage of the insurance. Employees are gonna think about procedures. They're gonna think about when they go in to get their prescriptions. There's a, I can't remember right now. There's a plan that you can use a card, and my insurance, I know last year when I was on it, my one medical prescription pill was gonna cost me $300 for the year. And I use GoodRx, that's what it is. You get a little card, costs nothing. They encourage us to use that. I went through GoodRx, that one pill took that cost down to like $50. So what I save by using GoodRx, and then I don't run it through our insurance. It doesn't come through the county usage because I don't use our insurance at all. I just use a GoodRx card, but I can use my HSA money. I save the county probably $600 just on a prescription renewal because I looked at it more because it was not just, here's my insurance card, thank you very much, I got it for cheap with my copay. It makes you think about what you're doing and when you spend the insurance money. So that was the idea, is to capitate what we spend and to make the insurance, possibly the usage go down because it's more on the employee's back with the HSA. Because the county isn't there to save them if there's a big expense or something. We expect them to spend all the money the county gave them per year. If they have a big usage, that comes out of the employee's money, or the money that the county gave the employee. Where on regular insurance, the county could still be on the road for $5,500 if they use all of their insurance. If they reach their out-of-pocket max, the county could possibly pay another $5,500 per employee, and that employee gets nets $1,000 in their $125 a month. So I would encourage not making any changes, just because I think if you take it down, you're gonna have people go back to the regular insurance, and that would put us possibly have more unencumbered money that we could get stuck spending if somebody has it. Because like we talked about last week, that $5,500, I thought we had an insurance that we paid a premium for, but we are just kind of self-funding that. Unfortunately, we were advised 3 or 4 years ago to start making a fund, and that never happened. So we don't have a cushion for that necessarily. I think this is a good time to start about making the cushion, but I wouldn't do it on the employees back.
No.
Especially our family employees. I tell you, I tried to hire a really good candidate, and the factor that she didn't take the job was because of the family insurance. Quite frankly, she couldn't afford. You don't work for a whole lot.
I agree.
If you pay the family insurance. And there's other employees out there that do it, and it's really hard to sell. We have pretty good insurance, but if you start raising the family to make a pot, and I don't know if that CARES fund, if that's a possible thing, we can take a chunk of that money, set it aside for proposed, future medical costs because of COVID. I don't know if that would be something. I was thinking this weekend if we could make a pot from that. I don't know what the strings are attached to it.
That'd be a good idea.
But I really don't think we should, on the backs of the federal employees, or reduce the HSA, because then we are gonna have people that are gonna go back to the regular insurance, and that's just an open checkbook from the county if something happens.
That's where I'm at, I just started looking at this.
And the HSA saves us money. People take stuff out pre-tax, so they don't pay tax on it. We don't pay IFRS, we don't pay FICA on it as an employer, so it does reduce our cost somewhat. The more that they put in the HSA, and we could sell it to the employees, because when you retire, that's your money, that's in that account. The employee takes it with them. So there is some incentives to maybe sell the HSA to the other employees. I don't know. We've never done a big push on it, and it's hard with COVID now, but I wouldn't recommend making a whole lot of big changes, and especially not putting expense on those family employees, because that's hard enough.
You're looking at $300, and that's just for this buy down. Well, if that's the case, we might as well just get rid of the coach or the buy down company and just go with a different $1,000 deductible through Blue Cross.
The buy down company does our flex spending too, so they manage that.
Yeah.
But like I said, misinformed or didn't understand. I thought we were making like a small premium account and we had a separate policy to insure against that. But with us self-funding, I didn't realize, you know, for every person that has regular insurance, that's an unearned check on the county's back. It could go through on 2-3, we got, you know, had it planned just in February with my insurance, that was the second month. You could have 3 or 4 or more of them. It could really add up fast. So that's just my 2 cents. I wanted to give you guys my.
I don't have a problem with the different line item in the budget, in the general fund, as far as to create this fund, so we have a fund. That's a bookkeeping thing on your guys' part, that's something we wanna do. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm not for, hammering our employees like that, totally not.
I agree. And then we set up a separate fund that stays there, because I think in the past, when it was discussed with the former deputy, prior to this group here, she always told us that there was money in the fund. And I think she meant the 99 fund. Because we don't have any.
You transfer everything to the general fund.
And anything left in the general fund rolls over to the next year. So if it's in Department 99, that money is not being set back and encumbered for future usages. We've never had a pot to do this into. And until Friday, I didn't totally understand that. But I think we need to set up a pot. If we could do some of the CARES money.
Yep, I think that'd be a good
You know,
idea.
we could, I don't know if they're gonna allow it or not, but the only thing I could think of this weekend as well, you could say it's for future possible costs associated with COVID and medical expenses. I don't know if that's allowable or not, but I think we've got the opportunity with this coming in, if we could do that, we could just take that and not do it on anybody's back.
Yeah.
You know?
Make sure that would roll over also.
Right, we would make, then that's what we've talked about, is making that a separate fund, kind of like conservation, land acquisition, local option sales and service, that rolls over, I guess, like secondary roads. That stuff is put aside into a separate account, it's not part of the general fund, and that would be Rachel and I would do that, but I think it's always been implied that it was there, but from switching positions, and there's no separate money set aside for that at all.
You know, when the insurance company gave us that presentation about the 2 different plans, and they said the standard plan was costing the county less money, I wonder if their premium is lower on that one than the other one? Is that must be where that came in?
And I don't know how, because when we were sold it 3 or 4 years ago, it was cheaper to do the HSA for premium to begin with. And then we were told to incentivize it by giving the $1,600.
Yep.
But then in the talk, you say, well, but if they have a big expensive procedure or something, and they move it out of pocket, we are assuming they're gonna take the $1,500 we gave them for the $125 a month, which was on the union contract for years, and the $133. We are on their backs saying if you do HSA, all that money's gotta go towards that, and the regular employees don't have that risk.
I don't remember, I probably have the paper, what the premium was for the regular versus,
I haven't
is
seen
that
it.
on that paper, Jim, the premium cost? You know, maybe that's where that must be where they're getting their differences.
So I don't know why the HSA is more expensive, because there's less risk, and we encourage employees to use the insurance less, so I don't know. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah, the premium is $900 more per month per person. So I suppose that's where they're factoring in the savings, you know, 900 times 12 is, yeah, you know, so then when you factor that in, it probably is, you know. So then the HSA plan probably is more expensive when you look at the premium cost.
And that may be because the usage is less, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a factor of what they pay out.
Right, so they probably didn't factor in what you just said, but they're factoring in the actual premium costs, which, so.
We need to know how to fund this money, is kind of what we're attempting to do.
Okay. When will we find out about the CARES Act? Any timeline on that?
I think the money's supposed to come beginning of May. I'm currently working on, in order to get the money, we have to have an active DUNS number, which we do, but we let the SAM's number at some point in the past not stay active, so I've been told from other counties it's taken like 3 weeks to get that, so
Okay.
we're working on it, but.
Yeah.
And they
Can
would
we
give
table
the,
that until then? Table this? until
Well, we
then?
need to know so we can get stuff out to retired employees before open enrollment.
Whether we're gonna change the plan, right, correct, or what? Is that what we need to know?
If you guys guys are changing like that 1,600 or 3,200.
Or if you're gonna leave everything the same, that's all I need to know.
I don't wanna change it. Just be frank with it, I don't wanna change it.
Is there a motion out there?
I'll move to not change the, I'll move to keep the insurance, I don't wanna say that.
As is.
I will move to keep the insurance, benefits as is. Are we just talking benefits? Can we say that, or?
Benefit contributions.
Okay, benefit contributions as current.
Do we have a second to that?
I'll second that.
We have a second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Steve,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Shannon, thank you for your,
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Beth.
anyways, that'll lead us forward for now until we find out more on the CARES Act money.
Yep.
Go from there. Discussion number 10, discussion and action on open enrollment vendors. Rachel, I think maybe I'll just let you.
So in the past, I know we've taken 3 meetings and had our employees come here. I know we're gonna have, I'm thinking of her name, that's come up. Julie? No, the lady from.
Okay.
Katie's gonna come and kind of explain just some of the benefits. And we've had like Aflac and those type of vendors come before and they've got to speak. So I know with COVID, how some people feel about everyone, so many people in a room, or we also kind of feel when you start as an employee, you do have the option to sign up with all these vendors and you get their contact if you want to pursue that. I do know if you don't have a presentation, you might not know what some of those benefits are. However, do you also want to have the employees sit here and take up more of their paid time on their job to sit here and listen to this? Do you want to have flyers that they can pick up on the way out to contact vendors? Do you want vendors here? Do you want them in the hallway that an employee can stop and talk to them after? And it's something where if we have vendors, you could have them every 3 years, every 5 years, or if you want to continue doing it every year. Kind of up to you.
Do you understand what you?
Yeah. What's been done in the past.
We've had someone, well, last year we didn't have open enrollment, this one due to COVID.
Yep.
Previously, you'd come here, you'd have a presentation, and then each of the vendors would give a presentation. And sometimes they'd almost bash on each other, you know, this is better than them, whatever, which is fine, but for an employee, myself, I got lost and I got bored and I was not interested after, but that's just my opinion. And I know you might not know about some of it if they don't explain it to you either, so.
I guess I had it in my head what I wanted. I knew who I wanted to speak with, if I wanted to speak with them. So, but anyways, anybody else have discussion on this, further discussion? Ideas? Mark, what did you think of it? You remember doing it in the past.
He used to come out to the secondary roads out there and make their presentation then.
I forgot about that.
Usually we learn.
Yep.
And then do you sign up that day, or do you?
You get the information and you can think about it, go home and ask your wife.
Believe me, that's a true statement
Yes,
here.
it is.
I guess my thoughts are we always usually gather in this room, and as far as the health insurance that we're looking at, that's something that definitely pertains to the employees. But all the other side stuff is optional stuff, whether or not those employees want to participate in it or not. The way it's been, employees hear the same speakers every year. And I would just assume what happens in this room would be for the employees, for the necessary business that pertains to the employees. But I'd have no problem with vendors being in the hallway so that when the employees leave, if it's something that, you know, I've been thinking about that product, and then they can stop
I can see that, but as for one vendor versus another vendor, maybe they need a time once in a while to give their spiel, but not every year. Because if we just have them out in the hallway and they get you as you're walking by, I know what Steve's gonna do, he's gonna truck by at 100 mile an hour by. So, but on the other hand, it is, the benefit is there for them vendors to promote their product, but not everything.
But for a new employee, you give them a packet, don't you, of what's available?
Yeah, when they start, they have all of it listed out, the different vendors, options.
With contacts and stuff.
Probably sufficient, ain't it? I don't know. You know, a lot of people know what they want. I think vendors can be kind of
Pushy.
That's why they do all that kind of stuff and set the way they want later.
So, what do we want to then?
Well, I think with COVID too, like, we don't need a bunch of vendors coming in. I mean, we need to do what we need to do, but
Make the information available to
make the information available to all the employees.
anybody. And
Yep.
Would you want to maybe have that in where they, every 3 years or 4 years, where they are able to be during after the insurance meeting, where they would be able to push their product? But,
maybe, and that might not be a bad thought, but maybe we wouldn't need to stipulate that today. We could just, in 3 years, say, well, it's been a while, let's maybe open it up to people, rather than schedule that now.
Yep.
When you have the open enrollment, do people change a lot of that stuff, or everybody pretty much?
I think there's
Stay
some
where they're at?
employees that switch,
Till they're-
but that's usually just from one plan to the other, it's not with the vendors.
Okay, so they just do it on their own anyway, so
Yeah.
the vendors ain't really a part of it, so.
And I can see where the vendors would want to be, again, that's their sales.
Yeah.
The only time though where anything would change is if their product changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
They could contact those vendors outside of their work hours as well.
That's correct.
Correct.
We're still giving them that availability to have a vendor, that they could visit with that person after hours too.
You have all the vendor contact information, so
Yeah.
if
Yep.
employee calls you,
Oh, yeah.
So I guess we have to have action on this for Rachel to go further with the vendors, so. I guess we need to have a motion stipulating, like you said, Jim, leave it vague, and down the road, Rachel can.
I'll move that this year's health insurance meeting is strictly deals with county business and no vendors present.
That's very understandable there. Jim has made that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll point that.
Mark has seconded it.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Mike,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Steve.
Aye. So, there we go. We have guidance now, Rachel.
Sounds good.
That not gonna keep them from calling you
We'll see.
though. Yeah. Okay, moving forward, number 11, approve auditor's quarterly report. And we have here, looks like total amount paid to county treasurer, $338.60. Any questions?
How much is a plot book?
$27. I don't run the report.
I suppose we do need to have a motion to, in a second, to approve this.
I'll second that.
Mike has seconded it.
Any other discussion? Roll call, Steve,
Aye?
Jim,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Moving on, approve the recorder's quarterly report. And quarter ending March 2021. Says the total amount paid to county treasurer of $24,762.33. This was submitted by Pat Schuster, county recorder. So, is there any, I guess Pat's not here to question her, so do we have any motions to approve the recorder's quarterly report of fees for March?
I'll move to approve the recorder's quarterly report.
I will second that.
Jim has made a motion, Mike has seconded it.
Any other discussion?
I just, to throw it out there, that, I know there's nothing we can do about it, but that hunting and fishing, writing fees and duplicate license, we do not make anything on that. And I just don't want, and she told us about that during her budget, but good Lord, we're doing a lot of the paperwork and our people's time for $160.
There's a lot of people are coming.
No, but again, I know we can't do anything about it, but I just wanted to share my thoughts.
Alright, so roll call, Mark,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
So, the recorder's quarterly report of fees has been approved. Moving on. Approved cooperative agreement between Iowa Department of Human Services, Bureau of Collections, and the political subdivision.
So I don't know a whole lot about this being new. I know that we have this contract between, these different counties that are listed here. Floyd, Franklin, Hancock, Cassuth, Mitchell, and Bagel and Worth. Otherwise, I printed out all the information that I have. I did send it to Mark Walk as well, and he signed off on his part.
And I'm sure, Mark, you're not on the speaker anymore. Doesn't sound like it. Yep, he is there. Okay. You give your approval of this agreement then?
Yes.
Do you have anything that you would want to add for us supervisors, just for a little knowledge on this?
This is the one, Rachel, with child support recovery.
Okay,
Is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
What happens is there's 5 or 6 counties that go together, and Iowa law requires that each county have an attorney that to pursue delinquent child support on behalf of the state, because if dads aren't paying it, the state has to pay it. So there's 5 or 6 counties that have gone together, hired one attorney, but then Floyd County is responsible for paying that person. So it's just kind of a flow through. We used to rotate it. Every county would do it for 3 or 4 years, but now Floyd County's just been doing it for a number of years. So that's really all it is, just a cost sharing.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I guess the last page really describes a lot. Second to the last page, I should say. Give everybody a chance to look at that a little bit. And I would entertain motions to approve when you're ready. 7 counties. As chair, I can't make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between the county.
Mark has made a motion. Can I second that as chair? Then I will make a second on that.
Any discussion? Roll call, Todd,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye?
Mike.
Aye.
Okay. We passed that. Agreement. So, moving on. Items of note, meetings attended. Would anybody like to go first? If not,
I have none. I have none.
all right.
I have one. Okay, so I had a North Iowa juvenile detention meeting on Friday. They're watching their budget, not to go over, it's getting the end of the year, trying to stay on target, but their food budget usually always goes over, and when that goes over, they have to provide food when necessary. Mitchell County's currently annually, we contribute $5,000 to them. We're at 85% of what, because we pay as we use the facility, and we currently paid 85% of that $5,000. As far as in the detention center, the last 3 months, things have been pretty well. Had a pretty good group of people there, with the exception of a chair being thrown into a television. So, only reason I say that is because the people that work there are great people, because that's what they deal with, is that kind of stuff. They also have a GPS program, which is a GPS steel bracelet that goes on the ankle of an individual. It keeps a lot of people from having to go to the facility. And then a parole officer can monitor what the individual's up to, where they're at, that kind of thing. So that program is going real well. The Adult Crisis Stabilization Center, their staffs continue to do a good job working with clients. When they reach their stay limit, they've been starting to go into the subacute, which is the mental health portion of it, in order so they can remain stable until they can have additional time for placement into a substance abuse treatment program. And in regards to the subacute facility, which is the mental health, they've handled situations from self-harm to people leaving the facility, and there was an individual that decided to start ingesting some hand sanitizer. There again, those people deal with unusual circumstances, and they are great people to try to help with people that have some challenging issues. What else? We approved the 2022 budget. We approved a 1.5% increase in wages. Mitchell County was currently at $5,000, will now be at $5,600. Again, we pay as we use it. They're going to approve hiring 4 full-time employees and reducing a number of part-time employees. And when you look at the numbers, it's a cost savings because they were spending a lot of money on part-time employees. And their part-time employees they've had, some are there just for the paycheck. It's not been working good. They have some excellent part-time employees also, but this is going to be a benefit to do that, to hire people. There's a program called Crisis Service for Kids. And currently that's in Saragordo County, but because of social services is changing throughout the state, Saragordo County is not going to become part of our group anymore. So North Iowa Detention Service wants to create that program so that we still have that, there's still that need, so we have a place that we can take our individuals. And as we talked about earlier, they're going to adjust their pay schedule in order pay for this. Currently, it's $125 a day for the first 30 days, and then at $50 a day. Well, now they want to keep the $125 for the first 30 days, but increase it to $75 a day after the 30 days, and that will cover the cost of the additional service. They have, I just wrote this down, North Iowa Juvenile Detention Services has various rates for many services they offer, and it would be too difficult for me to explain all of that in this report because it just is, it's too difficult, but I do, that's what I gave Ms. Teets as far as some of those fees. I'd be happy to share that with anybody if they want. That's all I have.
I miss that organization, that was a good organization.
They're good.
Sam Hudson's a good person,
They're all good at it.
Eric is good.
Yeah.
The group. Did you have any meeting tonight?
Just the
Okay.
conservation, which we all went to, so their regular meeting didn't have much to say.
Okay.
The wetland took so long. So.
Well, I get to bore you with a few meetings. I had on April 13th, a Boyd Mitchell Chickasaw landfill meeting. Approved the agenda. We had a citizens forum. Alan Powell was there, he's from Gendro. His thought was, her concern was if the landfill would be open additional hour for the week of Charles City cleaning up. New business. They discussed the financial report, and everything so far is okay. Profit and loss, investments, interest isn't good. Moving on down, we had discussion, decision on price change for dead livestock and out of area waste, and special out of area waste. Our leachate is picking up ammonia, so they're concerned about dead animals. Here a year ago, they brought in a bunch of chickens. So unconscious amount of truckloads of dead chickens, and they buried them out there. So they're thinking that's bringing the leachate ammonia up. So they're going to raise the price per carcass to $43. That way they won't be able to take,
$43 a chicken.
They don't want them.
Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't
Any
know
farmer can start his own dead animal pile. You just stir up a pile of manure and you bury your animal in it, and every couple of days you just kind of stir it up. That takes care of it. And the landfill isn't really a place for that stuff. They're out of area special waste. They're raising the rates up for that. Asbestos is one of the reasons they wanted to raise the rates on that. Discussion and decision about raising the price for open late hours from $100 to $200. And you think about it, you've got 3 employees there, raising it up to 200 just kind of helps pay for their overtime. And that's basically what that was all about. Decision on landfilling of recyclable materials by local haulers. The thing of it is recyclable materials are cardboard, plastics. Okay, Gendro would store cardboard here a year or so back, maybe a little over that. Cardboard became virtually worthless. There was no outlet for it. Might not still be a good outlet for it. But he had some that a year and a half ago that he sat because no one wanted it. It wasn't going nowhere. It's plastics, baled up plastics. Nobody wanted it. Well, the cardboard got wet. You can't store it in a building. It's outside. Well, it started to rot and mold, and the bindings, the baler material around it's fatiguing. This stuff is junk. Well, cardboard recyclers don't want it. The plastics got wet, they're full of water, and they're molding, and, So he had to ask if the landfill would accept these. Because it's a recyclable, it's supposed to be recycled, but it's contaminated. So they allowed that. long as it's something that was tried to be recycled at the time, at the current time, it was set off to the side. So they allowed him to do that. Approval of a new hire. Well, they had a couple of applications, and once they found out what they were paid, it's, we ain't coming here. We're gonna stay at our old job. So they just basically went back to their old job bosses and said, give me a raise, and they got their raise there. They didn't come. So that went to, we were gonna have a special meeting, the executive board financial committee was gonna meet on Thursday, and then we had another meeting on Friday, which I will get to here. Anyways, about that time I had to leave this meeting to go to the conservation meeting. So there's one. I had on April 14th at 1 o'clock, we had a North Central Regional Emergency Planning District Committee meeting. We had a quorum, approved the minutes. Aaron Beamer, the hazmat team, reported on there's no emergency responses in the last quarter. They did perform some air monitoring. They did receive the Lion multi-threat suits. These are protective suits to enter different situations. They're a more reasonably priced suit, a sturdier suit. They fit your body better. You're able to maneuver around in them. And anyways, they received them. They were $11,000 for 4 suits, so they're quite a suit. They also got a hazmat meter, which allows for training without contaminating any sensors. Basically, if they would train with their normal equipment, the sensor is contaminated, so they'd have to be readjusted. We also discussed, and this is for all team members, the OSHA physicals, and it would be $3,900 for the whole team, and that is a required expense. There was no communication comments from the floor. Unfinished business, we had a service contract with Mason City, and a year and a half they started anyway sending this contract out to all the different members of this committee. It took a year and a half and finally got it signed. So anyways, our next meeting will be July 14th, 2021. And immediately following that was the North Central Regional Emergency Response Commission meeting. Approved the minutes, financial report was passed, communication on the floor, infrastructure money may be set for emergency response. It's similar to the earmarks of the past, money coming in. I'm rushing through this, I'm not telling you everything. We had no unfinished business other than the service contract of Mason City that I described in the first meeting. That was approved. Going down, there's OSHA physicals, again, something I discussed in the first. We're hoping that these physicals would be done second week in May, and trying to save as much money as possible. And again, the next meeting will be July 14th. Then following that, yeah, we go to and this is completely different. It isn't anything to do with hazmat or hazardous material. This is the Region 2 RPA Policy Board meeting. You probably know about that, Jim. This does with the roads. We reviewed and approved the minutes of January 13th. We moved down to RPA 2 financials, and they talked about the STBG/swap, which you know about that, Jim. We have a $307,530 carryover, and with ITAP we had a $2,142 carryover, so they got that one pretty close. They talked about for the year 2022 through for year 2025 TIP and STBG ITAP project application summary. That was approved, and they did the 4-year 2022 draft TPWP, and they'll discuss that further and we'll approve that final draft at a later date. Other topics discussed was the Iowa DOT, where the COVID impacts. Fuel tax revenue is down 40%. Road use tax fund is down $50 million. The aviation fund down about 40%. And they talked about the counties and cities getting money under the CARES Act. The Iowa share was $121.9 million. DOT got out of that was 47.5%, which is $55.5 million. Counties got 32.5% of that $121.9 million, which went to $28.6 million to the secondary road fund, and $9.4 million went to farm to market. And the cities got 20% of that $121-9 million, and their amount that they got total would be $23.4 million. A lot of information. Hopefully that comes out of my mouth where it's understandable. That meeting was over. Getting back to the Floyd Mitchell Chickasaw landfill meeting on Friday morning, April 16th. Basically, we got together to discuss what we were going to do and the reason why they were having problems getting people to take the position out of the landfill is that they were paying $22.40 an hour, and they're going to pay, I think, $24, but they're going to raise that up to $24. Somehow or another, I don't have the piece of paper that I thought I had here. Basically, that was our meeting. It was approved. They would raise that rate up. We would still be under, because I questioned right away if we raise the rates for the bellows at the landfill, the road departments in the different counties were going to get excited. So they stayed underneath Floyd County's. We discussed the Floyd County Road Department is a $26.95 average. Mitchell County is a $24.80 average, and Chickasaw is a $23.69 average. So we stayed under that road department for 2 counties anyways. All 3, basically. You're right at about that Chickasaw County average. But anyways, we approved that so that they will put in the paper, or possibly get one of the other 2 that already applied to reconsider. But they're having a hard time getting somebody to come to work for the landfill. And being that this is the time of the year where things are going to start getting exciting, they wanna get somebody hired as quickly as they can.
Not yet, Sammy, I'm not done yet, I got one more meeting. Last night, we had FMC Early Childhood of Iowa, and I'll race through this. We had, at 6:30, we had the preschool teachers from St. John's Christian Preschool of Charles City, Central Preschool of Charles City, Rockford Marble Rock Preschool was there, Immaculate Conception of Charles City, Fun in the Sun Preschool from Fredericksburg, St. Joseph's from New Hampton, and New Hampton Preschool, New Hampton, Growing Tree Preschool from Osage, and Maryland Preschool from St. Ansgar. And they basically all discussed that they had, they're working with 3 to 5 years old kids, and we have a scholarship that we give from the FMC Early Childhood to parents who can't afford to put their kids in preschool. So a lot of these kids in the school accepted that or got that scholarship, and they talked about how many kids they have and the issues they've had in the past year, and what this year will bring. They discussed the use of the stimulus money and how they're going to use it. And they also all said, even though these are 3 to 5 year old kids, nobody had a problem with kids wearing their masks. The kids wore them great. Anyways, that was about an hour and 15 minutes of that, and we went to our normal meeting, approved the agenda, approved the minutes from the last meeting of November of 2020, discussed the financial report. Our fiscal agent, Gloria Carr, she did that. That was approved. She discussed the third quarter financial report to the state. That was approved. Everything is fine. Our audit, everything was in good shape. There was no issues. That was approved. And they discussed raising the claim price from $30 to $35, and that was a recommendation, and that was approved. That's basically for any cost. This was their claim expense for the auditors to do that. They discussed policy and procedure, emergency plans for any unprecedented events. No one else, no FMCs, or I should say Early Childhood of Iowa's, have done that in the state yet, so we're the first. We'd already had one reading, and this was the second. And this is something, just in the case we do have an event, we have some guidance. We have an idea. We're starting the ball game, so that we have guidance in case there is an event. Then we also, last night, moving down, policy procedure for the organizational emergency plan. And this was the first reading. So, anyways, that was approved. We did provider reports, child care resource and referral. They gave a report. Head Start of Chickasaw, Head Start of Floyd, Learning Connections, and LSI Families Together. They gave their provider reports, and it was right about 8:35. So the meeting was called to end. And our next meeting will be Monday, June 21st of 2021. So, thank you for listening to all that.
Steve, I have just a quick question about the landfill board. So, just so that I can learn here, that board consists of supervisors from the counties, city, people?
We have people from, you have 3 supervisors from counties,
Boyd, Mitchell, Chickasaw. You have mayors from all over this area. You also have, some aren't just mayors, some are clerks. Just a person representing that city, that they're representing that. It doesn't have to necessarily be a mayor, but.
Okay. And I don't have a problem with the wage thing that you guys did, but it just made me think. So when you guys approve wages to people, is that just something that the bill gets sent to the appropriate counties and cities and stuff?
The landfill does that all internally.
But I mean, we just more or less just accept what that board has come up with for a decision on wages and stuff. I mean,
Basically, yes.
okay. I mean, I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm just.
I don't know however else to answer that.
The landfill fees.
The landfill collects the fees to pay their employees. It doesn't come.
Okay. It's
So-
internal.
It's internal.
It's internal.
That makes sense.
So I don't think we pay to the landfill. The landfill is self-sufficient. By the fees or not?
That's kind of the way I take it.
I think it is. And it's one of the cheaper landfills around too.
Well, it's gonna have to change,
Well,
because we're running into,
Yep.
we have to, you're running into the rules and regulations of the DNR, and you have to tag and have all these tests made, and test wells all around, and you gotta buy more land. Equipment costs are going up.
You don't see any employee things in the auditor's office then?
I know they do insurance through us, but I believe
Insurance is
they
done.
pay for all of that,
Okay.
for like the past year.
Okay. I just wondered.
Yeah. Decisions are made by the areas they support, the communities, the cities. And when you have a full meeting where it's the full board, you can fill that room out there. But we have a full board and an executive board. And this executive board makes these recommendations. But they had to have an executive financial committee get together before they could raise that up. And then they brought that to the executive board that came out Friday.
Very good, thank you.
So, anyways, manure management plan.
I have a question.
Okay.
Too, on the RPA, you said that like the county farm to market fund would get some money out of that. You don't know.
Now,
How
again,
much?
what I discussed, the wages that
No,
was
that
for,
was at RPA.
that was for the 99 counties.
Yeah.
You will get,
Each county get a percentage of the amount, right?
let's see where I find that.
I know you mentioned it, but
This is out of the whole state. Farm to market, be 9.4 million. Now, you gotta divide that out amongst 99 counties.
Yep.
And I don't know, some counties are gonna have preference over other counties, so you just can't divide 9.4
No.
million in 99 ways.
Right. Yep, I just wondered. Yep,
So,
I thought I heard you say that, I was just.
yes. So,
Yep.
moving on, manure management plan.
I have two, Corner View Crop and Livestock, 3696 Zinnian Avenue, Grafton, and Mapes Finisher Farm, 1047 Addison Avenue, Orchard.
Okay. Moving on. Public comments. Charlie, do you have anything to say?
I have one today. I haven't got any emails from Jane or Waylon about this, but Iowa legislature is starting to work on the TIF money again. So I don't know what they're gonna do, but maybe just heads up to the supervisors to keep an eye on that. Yeah, I think it's House File 849 is what the number they're working on right now to do, and they've tried before, they wanna take TIF themselves.
From what I've read on that, they wanna kinda change the sunset part of it, that cities participate in. And there's no sunset ending to it, they wanna end up having to be similar to what the counties are doing, where there's it's a 20-year thing. That's part of it. There was also something in there that, I'm not gonna be able to explain it, but it kinda concerned me because it had to do with the incremental value and the incentive of the tower that sits on it. When they get too close together, you can actually, it'll eliminate itself. That's the way I read it. Now, I can't explain it, but they are thinking of doing stuff. And I wrote Jane Bloomingdale a lengthy email in regards to my concerns about it, and that was probably a month ago when I did that. But, and I haven't looked to see where they're at with it right now. But
No, I just give
it was
you-
in committee, yes.
Just give you a heads up,
I appreciate that. Yep.
Okay,